Okay, I think we're gonna switch right over to our next presentation now. If I can call to the stage Hilda Pinzon Perez, por favor. And hola. And I'm gonna let you go ahead and take it from here for our next session.
Good morning, everyone. It is an honor for me to be here and very thankful for the opportunity to share my presentation with all of you. Today, I am going to talk about creating mechanisms to develop culturally competent and culturally humble health literacy materials. And this with an approach of a health literacy tool in Spanish on resilience during the COVID-19 pandemic. So providing you with a specific example that I developed as part of a support grant that I received from the Provost Research and Creative Activities Award at my university. So let's go into the presentation. Next one, please. Today, I'm going to talk about a general overview of the session, health literacy and applications for Latinx, Latine communities, and other terminologies that you may consider relevant to describe the Latin community, Latin, Hispanic Latin community, health equity and social justice in relationship to health literacy. And then I will talk about the concept of cultural compatibility and how that is applicable in health literacy. I will provide a specific example of a health literacy tool on resilience that I developed completely in Spanish during the COVID-19 pandemic. And then at the end, my intention is to engage the audience in a dialogue that we can discuss applications for our professional work through the question and answer session and through the dialogue session at the end of my presentation. Next one, please. So this presentation will discuss the lessons learned on health equity and cultural humility from a health literacy tool written in Spanish regarding developing resilience during the COVID-19 pandemic. This book is primarily for children and is in Spanish, as I mentioned, and it attempts to exemplify and put into practice those concepts of cultural humility, cultural competence, and cultural compatibility. I will discuss with you the cultural compatibility concept by Kapinha and Bacotti, and many of you might be already aware of it, and my intention is to create a dialogue on how this cultural compatibility concept could be utilized in improving health literacy. This presentation will also address an analysis of important health literacy considerations when addressing Latinx, Latine communities, such as language, readability analysis, and various cultural constructs. Next one, please. So cultural compatibility. Next one, please. What is it? And cultural compatibility, I review several resources, but one that I want to bring to your attention is the original resource by Kapinga and Bacotti on an article, Cultural Compatibility, a Paradigm Shift in the Cultural Competence Debate. And there are various components of this article that I would like to discuss. I encourage you to go to the original article. I am providing here the corresponding link, and I would like to bring a couple of aspects that are discussed in that article. So in the article, there are several aspects, but no, not yet, please. But it is important to recall some components of the article, such as the aspect that cultural humility is commonly seen as an alternative concept to cultural competence. And Tervalon and Murray Garcia in 1998 actually developed a seed ground on the understanding of the difference between cultural competence and cultural humility. And these authors call for healthcare professionals to differentiate clearly cultural competence from cultural humility. So most likely we will see, or we have seen, cultural competence from the perspective of knowledge, becoming aware of cultural differences, recognizing and valuing those cultural differences. But cultural humility expands on that concept and emphasizes a journey, a lifelong journey, a lifelong commitment to nurture a process of self-evaluation, recognition of our own biases, and critique of our own behaviors, addressing power imbalances and how we, in some cases, inadvertently may support those power imbalances, promoting interpersonal sensibility, and basically developing an attitude of openness and egolessness. So that is important, at recognizing that we need to improve, and we are in a journey of improving. And cultural competence is a concept that it was very valuable. It gave the seeds for us to expand on cultural humility. So I want to value both concepts and recognize the components of both, the benefits and the value of those both concepts in public health and health literacy. Next one, please. So the definition of cultural compatibility is based on a cross-cultural communication approach, reducing health disparities and improving access to better care, and increasing health literacy, and ultimately promoting health equity, diversity, inclusion, and social justice, as our previous presenter discussed. So I quote from the article, Cappingham Bacotti, have coined the term cultural compatibility to describe this synergistic relationship. The origin of cultural compatibility is the deliberate blending of the terms cultural competence and cultural humility. So, close quote. So, it is an integration of both concepts, is a recognition of the value of both components. So we need to have that knowledge. We need to have the understanding of the various cultural differences, similarities, integrations, value them, but also engage in a process, a very pragmatic and self-determined process of recognizing our own biases, our own power imbalances, behaviors, etc. Next one, please. So cultural compatibility is defined, and this is a quote, as the synergistic process between cultural humility and cultural competence, in which cultural humility permeates each of the 5 components of cultural competence that I will be addressing in a minute. And cultural compatibility can be viewed as simultaneously being both a process of becoming and the process of being. I wanted to use these quotes because these 2 concepts are essential for me in my practice, is permeating each of the 5 components of cultural competence, being a part, integrating, being a solid component, a major element in those components of cultural competence, and also being as a process of becoming, so a goal, but also being in the moment, engaging in behaviors of self-reflection and self-analysis and egolessness and openness to others. Next one, please. So I chose this background in the slides because I want to make the emphasis on journey and the constructs of cultural competence that I was mentioning before. So the first component, the recognition of the behavior, the understanding, the knowledge of that behavior. And this is also known as cultural awareness and learning from others outside of our own cultural group, our own ethnocultural group, or our own identity group, which is cultural knowledge. Then the initiation process, in which we engage in the development of cultural skills that reflect respect, but not only respect, but embracing and valuing and recognizing the importance of those behaviors, those differences, those values in various aspects, faith, spirituality, culture, etc. Then the application, which implies cultural encounters, actions in which we actively engage in the process of interaction, valuing, appreciation, and embracing others who are different from us. And then finally, the journey, which is that cultural desire to get to that point of where we consider that we're pretty much close to that goal. And remember that it sounds like almost difficult to imagine being completely in that state of cultural competence, cultural humility, because as I told you, it's a process of improvement. Next one, please. So this model of Kapinghan-Pacotti integrates concepts like love, caring, social justice, humility, through intellectual and moral virtues like love of truth, the capacity to be taught and teach, teachableness, intellectual honesty. In the concept or in the construct of love includes wisdom, studiousness, patience, inclusion. In the concept of caring, discernment, practical wisdom, compassion, and accessibility. In the concept of social or in the domain of social justice, prudence, understanding, diversity, commitment, and in the domain of humility, attentiveness, temperance, equity, and ultimately the application level, which is what we want. We don't want to have only concepts in our heads and desires, but actually reflect those in our behavior, professional behavior, and even in our own personal behavior. Next one, please. So relationship to health literacy. So as we have heard in the various presentations, there are different definitions of health literacy. Personal health literacy, which is the degree to which individuals have the ability to find, understand, and use information and services to inform health-related decisions and actions for themselves and others, maybe people who they care for. But once again, is centered on the use of information of services based on informed health-related decisions. Organizational health literacy is the degree to which organizations equitably enable individuals to find, understand, and use information and services to inform health-related decisions and actions. So all the efforts that are done by organizations to get equity in health, inclusion, diversity, social justice, such as the process of translations, interpretations, because we not only want translation, but the interpretation of the cultural construct as well in the access to information. The definition of health literacy was updated in August 2020 with the release of the US government's Healthy People 2030 and changed from definition using Healthy People 2010 to and Healthy People 2020. So from those, some aspects were taken and built up upon, but the definition is the degree to which individuals have the capacity to obtain, process, and understand basic health information and services needed to make appropriate health decisions. So notice the three concepts: obtain, the process of knowledge, process it, understand it, and utilize it so they can understand and utilize that basic health information for decisions that are going to improve their health and their level of wellness. Next one, please. So the other aspect is relationship to health literacy in terms of the concepts of cultural compatibility and some of the applications for Latinx, Latinx communities, Hispanic Latinos, all the various denominations that we have to identify our group. So health equity and social justice in relationship to health literacy is another important component. These two, I am going to exemplify them in the book that I would like to share with you. So health equity, according to the World Health Organization, equity is the absence of unfair, avoidable, or remediable differences among groups of people people, whether those groups are defined socially, economically, demographically, or geographically, or by other dimensions of inequality, such as identities, sex, gender, ethnicity, disability status, or sexual orientation. And health is a fundamental human right. Health equity is achieved when everyone can attain their full potential for health and well-being, close quotes. There are some other definitions from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, etc., that are pretty close to this definition of the World Health Organization, but I would like to bring your attention to the various constructs that are part of that health equity: sex, gender, ethnicity, disability status, sexual orientation, identity, and recognizing health as a fundamental right. And as such, other components in the delivery of services should be based on the understanding that health is a fundamental inherent human right. And the ultimate goal is to allow everyone to achieve their full potential for health and well-being. And the concept of wellness comes here as an important element in the concept of physical, mental, spiritual, intellectual, financial wellness. Next one. So the social determinants of health, we have heard lots of it about throughout this conference: economic stability, education, access and quality, healthcare access and quality, neighborhood and built environment, social and community context. I'm giving here the hyperlink, so if you want to see the specific explanations for each of the domains, but definitely cultural compatibility should be incorporated and seen in these various components of the social determinants of health. And for us to take an active stand to ensure that our communities have these social determinants of health, ensure for them to achieve that maximum state of health and well-being and wellness. Next one, please. Social justice is another component that is very much part of cultural compatibility. Social justice, open quotes, is the view that everyone deserves equal rights and opportunities. This includes the right to good health. Yet today, there are inequities in health that are avoidable, unnecessary, and unjust. These inequities are the result of policies and practices that create an unequal distribution of money, power, and resources among communities based on race, class, gender, place, and other factors. I got this from APHA, and if you can click on the hyperlink, you can go and get the whole context of the quote. But I want to emphasize here from this definition the inequities that we are experiencing that are avoidable, that are unnecessary and unjust, and that are based on policies and practices that are established and are related to the distribution of money, power, and resources. Notice policy plays a major element. I teach health policy, and I cannot stop emphasizing the relevance of health policy in public health and social determinants of health, etc. Next one, please. So health literacy and cultural compatibility applications for Latinx communities, certainly in terms of language, which was clearly explained by our previous presenter, Jovisa. And also it is important to recognize the value of doing readability analysis of the documents that we produce for our communities, making sure they match the literacy level of our populations, participating populations. I try not to use the word target populations because it's unilateral and it seems like it's unidirectional. So participating populations, I consider a more appropriate term. And then based upon the cultural constructs, cultural appropriateness, and ultimately improving access, guaranteeing access, and maximizing access so the communities and participants could achieve that optimal state of health and wellness. Next one, please. So an example that I wanted to bring to you that relates to this presentation, these concepts of cultural compatibility, social justice, equity, diversity, inclusion, is a book on resilience developed during the COVID-19. It is a book in Spanish, and it emphasizes the pillars of resilience for Latinx communities, those pillars of resilience that we can incorporate in public health and community health and health literacy are the 4 Fs, what I call the 4 Fs: faith, family, friends, and fun. Faith, very important. Family, in understanding that it is the programs cannot go only to the individual, but to the nuclear and extended family, uncles, cousins, all them involved. Friends, very important source of resilience. And fun, dancing, engaging in games, etc. So the book characters are three characters. They are fictitious. They are Maria, Samuel, and William. And one of them was born outside of the United States. The other one was in the United States, and the other one in the United States as well. And they explain all the family dynamics that they experienced during the COVID-19 epidemic. So this is the second book. I did one back in 2019, and it was on general resilience. This one is a specific resilience for COVID-19, and it's a 49-page book in Spanish and primarily for children, and is based upon, like, it brings things that, like, I want people and kids and families to remember in 10, 15 years, like all what we lived during the COVID-19 pandemic, like things we would never even imagine that we were struggling for toilet paper. That could never be in our minds, something like that. We certainly may consider or foresee struggles with food, health, etc. But those kind of necessities were never even in our minds. So this brings all these details of the COVID-19 pandemic and how people handle it. It is fictitious, but very much based on the reality that we all experience. And it has 3 sections. Is our stories, so the family stories that they live, if they come from a family of immigrants, what were the fears? For instance, one of the characters, the major fear is that they take his mom, and the constant stress. As you know, stress is a very important predictor of wellness and health, and that chronic stress, financial stress, etc. Even though we know that there is eustress and distress, this distress is what it's primarily described in this book. And then how COVID-19 affected us, how it affected each of the characters, Maria, Samuel, and William, and then how it affected their families, and then how we face COVID-19. What did they do to face the COVID-19 pandemic? And one of the characters have an incarcerated parent, a parent in the judicial system. So it talks about how they navigated that process during the COVID-19 pandemic. And the final part of the book is the action plan, which prompts the readers to create a list of resilience skills that they have used in the past in other situations, and new resilience skills they learned through the COVID-19 pandemic. So if you can see the constructs of pillars of resilience for Latin communities, Latinx, Latina communities, the book chapters, the book contents, and then ultimately what I wanted and is the application component. I want to thank the Provost Research and Creative Activities Awards from the College of Health and Human Services at California State University, Fresno, for providing me some funds to write this book during the summer. Next one, please. So dialogue with the audience, and Diana, how much time do we have left, please?
Sorry about that. Yeah, 5 minutes.
5 minutes, perfect. So let me first answer your questions, and I would like you to please, at least a couple of you, tell me what previous professional experiences have you had in regards to cultural compatibility, and what applications for your for our professional work do you see? So if you could send at least one of you, and because of time, and then we'll go to the question and answer, and Diana will read that, please.
Absolutely. So, just so you know, there's a little bit of a delay between when we say something and when the audience hears us. I think it's like 20 seconds. So, it might take a little bit before we see anything come into the chat. Let me check the discussion just in case. Yeah, not just yet. But I did have a question for contempt. Sorry, it's a new term for me. It's the contemplability. Can you?
Compatibility.
Yeah, where can if people want to know more about where they can maybe get some training on that or read more up on it, do you have any suggestions on where people could go?
Yes. First of all, I suggest you click on the hyperlinks that I gave in this presentation. Particularly, this article is actually published, and it gives several resources within the article to address this issue. Definitely professional associations like American Public Health Association, etc., in which we can motivate more people to present and experience this concept in their professional work, and share that experience with others through professional conferences like this one. Like in my case, I wanted to share the book and give you a specific example. We do have a teleconference that we develop. We have done 4 teleconferences in the past. It involves 5, sometimes we have 6 countries around a network of professionals. And we have this presentation builds up on many of those discussions that we have had in relationship to cultural competence and cultural humility.
Great. Let's see, double check the discussion. So many different places people could type stuff. I'm just trying to make sure I don't miss anybody. So nothing's coming yet, but another question for the book. Did you mention where we can get the book or find the book that?
If you go to the next one, please. To the next slide. Yes, I can summarize my presentation and then give you the contact information. So summary: cultural compatibility, applications in health education, public health, community health, and reminding you of the crucial components of health literacy, equity, diversity, inclusion, social justice. And the book is available upon request. If you go to the next slide, please, it has my contact information, my email. Please send me, and I'll be glad to send it to you. Is still in the printing finalizing form, but I can send you. Definitely the content is available for everyone. Thank you, Diana.
Oh, amazing.
I ask someone to please tell me, how do you see the concept of cultural compatibility in your work, in your professional work? I would like to engage the audience at least for a minute in this dialogue. And I don't know, Yuvisa, I may impose on you because you did the presentation and I see it so closely related. If you see this concept applicable.
Scarlett, can you put them into the chat if you could too, also, because I don't see them on the areas. Sorry about that. Go ahead, Juvisa.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you know, it's interesting, right? Yes, I definitely do see it. And it's interesting because I think you know, as I mentioned earlier, at my organization, we're definitely lacking folks who, you know, sort of are well versed, I think, in these areas and in these fields. It's always sort of like a challenge to get folks to really kind of like truly understand these concepts, right? And to like really truly apply and integrate it into the work, and to see I think like the meaningful impact that it can have, especially because everything is so instant gratification. And so I've been in situations where people are like, well, what does this do and how will this impact? And it's like, well, you got to measure it and you got to wait and you got to, you got to give it time, right? To like really integrate it. So it certainly doesn't come without its challenges, but yeah, I mean, I think it was great, what your topic and what you discussed, and I hopefully we start to see more of this, fully integrated as we move along, right? Because really the diversity, it's just growing, and there's a true need for this. So yeah.
Since we are about time, yes, Yubisa, thank you for sharing your experience. I thought your presentation very much was very, very congruent with these concepts and reflected those. That's why I asked you to participate. And thank you, everyone, for your attention. Please send me your emails if you want a copy of the book. Thank you so much, Diana, for the moderation of this presentation.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for a great presentation.